It's a fantastic data essential software. My name's Dan Taleb. I'm the VP of Marketing and Operations. And this is one of our events in the Digital Transformation Series, talking about the paperless and automated process of processing of documents, including AR and AP invoices. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts today, Sabrina Stratford and Chris McWilliams from Ephesoft. Sabrina?
Thank you. Thanks, Dan, very much. Since it's only 30 minutes, guys, I'm going to kind of push through this. But since we've got a limited audience, if you've got a question, Dan will be able to see that. And I don't usually say this, but feel free to interrupt because I think with an audience like this, we can really tailor our presentation or answer any questions that you have. So I'm Sabrina. I'm in Colorado. Chris is in California. And I'm going to explain what Ephesoft Transact is. It's also called IDM Capture, and I'll explain what that means, what problems we solve, and then quickly take you through just a short demonstration. So we are beyond OCR, and what I mean by that is Infor will oftentimes refer to us as their OCR solution, and that is accurate. We do perform optical character recognition on documents, but it's probably not why we were picked to be their provider. So we are under the hood of Infor OS IDM Capture. So they call us IDM Capture. Sometimes they'll refer to it as just their capture product, but we are under the hood as an OEM partner. And so what that means is that if you decided to move forward with an opportunity, you can work with Dan, you can work with Infor, you can work with Ephesoft. It's all coming from Infor through their quoting system, so no confusion. So real straightforward. So let's talk about the problems that we solve. We address unstructured data. And what we mean by that is, think about anything that's in a contract, an invoice, things that aren't always the same in a form is kind of your unstructured data. And that is growing exponentially, and it's causing a lot of problems, and that's what we solve for. So the majority of data is in a model that's not organized, and we start with digital transformation. So we're the first step in digital transformation. How do you transform your enterprise if it's not digital, right? And now that COVID has hit, we've got kind of that as a demand, that we are having to look at getting our content digitized so that everybody can access it. But also we're saving money and increasing productivity along the way. All right, so where we go beyond OCR, we start with our searchability. We need to make sure that knowledge workers can find what they need to do their jobs. We might want to send a PDF of the document to a repository and then send some of that key data points to an ERP. So now we have metadata that can kickstart an entire workflow process. So searchability is step one that we're adding as functionality. And then secondly, classification. And this is where we go really beyond OCR. So what we're answering is, what is this? It's a content type, and it's a critical step in advancing up the chain. So we use machine learning or trained models, and our software sees the document just like we see it and determines what it is. Is it a contract, an invoice, or an order? And that's important because now we can apply separation or sorting of a bundled document set. It allows the system to know when one document ends and another one begins. So you can mix up invoices and purchase orders, and it's going to know the difference without separator pages. You can have a multi-page TIFF, and we can rip that apart into separate documents. Metadata, or data about data. So now that the classification's been done, now that we know what document type this is, we can extract data based on that document type. And this information can be a true enabler for other applications. The metadata we need varies by document type, so that's why that classification was important. Now we know what metadata to get. And beyond the value of eliminating manual entry of data, having metadata that's specific to a type of document really extends the value. So if this information, it needs to be accurate, it needs to be validated. If you've got a wrong invoice number, that's probably worse than no invoice number at all, because that's going to mess you up down the line in your process. So accurate metadata enables core content business functions. It can tell us where to store the document. It might tell us what security rules we want to apply, what workflow is needed. We need the metadata for RPA enablement. So if you're talking about robotic process automation, you need the metadata. You need it for approvals and routing. So that's why this is such a big part of the solution. This is a great slide to show you what IDM Capture does from acquire to release. So we start here, we can capture from folders, scanners, fax machines, email attachments. You can use your phone as a scanner. We then clean it up, de-skew it, remove blanks, and now we can classify the document. We were talking about classification. That's how we've assigned our business roles. Is it an invoice? Is it a contract? Is it a resume? Then we extract the data we need. We might do a database lookup and use fuzzy logic if we need to for validation. And then finally, we deliver that good data to Infor or a repository or another line of business system or wherever we need it to go. You can simultaneously move it to Infor and a file folder or a spreadsheet or an RPA process. This is the digital transformation. See, we've transformed that document digitally, and now you can automate your process. And if you're wondering how we work within Infor, this is a good tech slide to kind of hash that out on the communication process. So IDM Capture pulls in the documents and that content and feeds it through ION, or the API layer. And then that process layer feeds it back into Cloud Suite or any other Infor system with all of the enrichment that we've covered here. Okay, so where do we typically start? Accounts payable has been a huge win for us, and I noticed that Dan kind of named the session that. It's not the only thing we do. You can tell by the words that I've been using: contract, resume. You can work in human resources. You can work in the sales department. You can work with any document type. But where we've had such good success because of such a high return on investment is in accounts payable. And I guess it's because everybody has an accounts payable department. So look at the cost here. If you are manually processing your invoices, you can find a huge return on investment that sometimes gives you budget to justify other software purchases. So a cost per invoice, $14.38. Your time to process an invoice, almost 11 days. When we talk about electronic invoices and straight through processing, that means, that nobody had to touch it and it went straight through where it needed to go. That's only happening about 19% of the time. So whenever you add Smart Capture, we just slash that. We go from $14.38 to $2.52. That's huge. From almost 11 days down to 3 days. We increase that straight through processing to 63%. And it's really easy to justify budget whenever you're able to show these kind of numbers. All right, so I'm going to show you some of the user interface. If you are familiar with Infor currently, then you're familiar with this login screen. And since we're a plugin, we show up as a widget up there in that left-hand corner. You'll see IDM Capture. And when you click that, it takes you straight to Ephesoft Transact home screen. Okay, so just a reminder that Ephesoft Transact is IDM Capture. And I think that they're going to, Infor is kind of updating this screen where Ephesoft Transact may be taken off. So you'll just be seeing it as IDM Capture in future releases. And you're able to access everything you need here. Whenever we talk about batches, it would be a batch class or a batch of invoices, and we've applied these rules to that. So when we click on a batch, we see a batch of invoices are being indexed. You can see all the other documents in this box are green, and that means they're good to go, or they went straight through, or that there's an exception, and that would be with the red indicator. So that means, hey, stop and take a look. And we can see that, well, there's coffee, spilled up on the right-hand corner there over the invoice number. So what we're getting are only the exceptions where somebody needs to look and click through and maybe validate and enter an invoice number. And then whenever we correct that one exception, it's allowed the batch to be closed and all the other data is captured. And we have document confident thresholds that you get to adjust, so that you can set what your validation looks like. And if we open up IDM now, we see the document archive in IDM, and we can see the attributes that we've extracted there on the right, the invoice number, amount, invoice date, etc. And you get to set that. In addition to releasing documents out to IDM, we can also publish a BOD to ION. So document flows can be built like the one shown here to release the BOD to the correct Infor ERP. So it can go to Cloud Suite. I can supply you with a list of certified ERP systems with Infor. They include M3, LN, and Cloud Suite, as well as SXE, Sightline. There's lots that we're working on now to continue our certification. And that's really what I wanted to touch on, because we typically back up now at this point and go over areas where there might be questions or places where we want to dig in deeper. And I've got Chris McWilliams on the line, and he's our solutions engineer manager, so he's able to even answer technical questions. So let me just pause here and see if I need to back up anywhere and see what we're thinking. So Dan, do we have any questions pop up?
I guess I have to unmute myself. I've opened the mic for the attendees, so if anybody has any questions, don't be shy. Please feel free to speak up and ask for any clarification or information.
What else? Did we have questions come up?
No other questions came up in the queue.
Okay.
I think just as another piece that I see customers ask a lot about is just being able to really, again, use we have really powerful tools like the web scanner to drive your actual scanners to get documents in, and it's so important right now with COVID and all this stuff and being remotely. Like, a digital document has never been more important. So I've just seen that time and time again, and we're doing a lot of projects around even proof of delivery too. So when an order comes in and we need to, you have a signed shipping document, we can put scanning processes around that and archive documents in the appropriate place. So lots of really exciting things we can do with the solution.
This would work for quality tests as well, would it not?
Yeah, I mean, any kind of paper document, there's the main thing when we look at one of these projects. So a lot of times we're using we're driving automation with a lot of things that we do. So like with anything you automate, you want to make sure that the effort to automate is worth the benefit. So that's kind of one thing, as just to make sure that we'll ask a lot of questions of like, how much volume or how many how many processes does this happen, so, or take place a month or whatever. So we can help kind of talk through that. So, and it really just depends on, when we look at the automation rules, we just need to understand what are the document types and how many different variations there are and how many fields of extraction we need to put around. And we have some really cool tools within the product to be able to set up that data extraction and accelerate that time to value and that automation.
Okay, one last call for questions. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending today's session on paperless and automated document processing. I want to thank our attendees and also our trainers, Sabrina and Chris, for giving us this session today. I think it's an incredibly valuable piece of digital transformation, as you both pointed out, and there's a huge amount of potential, I think, across the sightline base. I think there's just huge potential. I look forward to sharing this recording with other customers that weren't able to attend.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity, Dan.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank you.
good afternoon.